Good morning, everybody. Sometimes when I'm working on a story, it doesn't work out the way I want it to, and that's why I didn't have a second video yesterday. It just didn't work out the way I wanted it to, so I scrubbed it, and we'll try again today. So I wanted to show you this article before we get to the meat of today's story. Justin Trudeau's approval rating is about the same as it was for Harper in 2014. Harper's last year survey shows. Now, before I get into the article, because they try and sanitize this quite a lot, I want you to think back to 2014 and how much you hated Stephen Harper. And in retrospect, I miss Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper was a steady hand in unsturdy economic times, and he maintained Canada's economic and business viability all through that time. So I respect Stephen Harper for the steady hand with which he governed Canada. However, in 2014, a lot of people were very upset at Stephen Harper. A lot of people in Ontario were anyway. Well, in the East, right? Everybody in the East didn't like Stephen Harper very much. And he missed that memo somehow. So, but back to the article here. This was published two days ago, and it says, a new survey suggests that Canadians are feeling as positively about Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's current performance in office as they felt about Stephen Harper's in his final year of a majority government. According to a survey conducted jointly by Nanos Research and the Institute for Research on Public Policy, 35% of respondents rated the current federal government's performance as, quote, very good or somewhat good. Back in 2014, 1 year before losing the federal election, Mr. Harper earned similar support, with 37% saying his performance was very good or somewhat good. Pollster Nick Nanos said Canadians might find it surprising that Mr. Trudeau's numbers are similar to Mr. Harper's. Actually, I'm surprised, Mr. Nanos, that Mr. Trudeau's numbers are even that good. And let's be very clear here. Mr. Harper's numbers were better, right? Trudeau is trailing Harper by 2 points. And really, Trudeau should be down to about 10 or 12 points in my estimation if these polls were not conducted at Liberal gatherings and family events, right? Trudeau family events. Yeah. There's no way he's at 35% popularity, in my opinion. Maybe in certain pockets, but not across Canada. And I'll show you, because it's not just me saying that. Here's the Globe and Mail's opinion piece, and why Trudeau might lose. Let's jump down a little bit here, because you can read it on your own. The link is in the description. And it says, quote, the disenchantment with Mr. Trudeau has driven his party's popularity down to about 36% in the polls. They gave him an extra bump there. The other article said 35%. I guess that's his approval rating. Back to the article. Only 2 points ahead of the Conservatives, as noted by UBC professor Richard Johnston. Mr. Trudeau's own approval rating is lower than the U.S. President Donald Trump. Oh my goodness. Mr. Trudeau, this must be an ego, like just a punch to the ego. You're trailing Stephen Harper's numbers by 2 in the same period in prime ministerships. And by that, I mean your last year as a prime minister. And you're actually trailing Trump. And I know, me personally, I like Donald Trump. I think he's doing a great job for the United States overall. And I think he deserves the positive approval ratings he's getting. But I know that Mr. Trudeau has this competition in his head with Trump, and he believed himself to be the winner of that competition because he had higher approval ratings or something to that effect. And he behaved that way as well, being insulting to Mr. Trump and behaving the way he has on trade and with the relationship between Canada and the US. It's pretty incredible. But his approval rating is lower than Donald Trump's. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, potato face Trudeau. My forums, CanadaPoly.com forums, are a wonderful place. And after one of my videos the other day, there was a conversation going on, and somebody linked this Black Pigeon Speaks video, and it's a really interesting video. You should watch it. The link is in the description. It talks about Canada, a nation crashing with no survivors, and it opened my eyes. 6 minutes in, it starts talking about what I'm going to talk about now. And what I'm going to talk about now is, China setting up crime webs in Canada, report says. This is a Globe and Mail report from the year 2000, and I guess it was updated in March 2018, but the article still stands. So here we go. The Chinese government and Asian criminal gangs have been working together in drug smuggling, nuclear espionage, and other criminal activities that constitute a grave threat to Canadian security, a secret study by federal law enforcement and intelligence analysis says. Quote, in many ways, China remains one of the greatest ongoing threats threats to Canada's national security and Canadian industry, the report says. The study, titled Chinese Intelligence Services and Triads Financial Links in Canada, was prepared in June 1997 by as many as 5 analysts from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, who worked for about 2 years using classified files from both agencies. Copies of the original draft were destroyed or kept under lock and key until the Globe and Mail obtained one this week. The study, known as Project Sidewinder, was considered by some CSIS managers to be so controversial that it was watered down and rewritten before a sanitized version was circulated to other government agencies last year, according to sources familiar with the industry document. That's 1999, just in case you're not sure. The Sidewinder report describes an alliance among the Beijing government and its espionage services, Hong Kong tycoons, and Chinese criminal gangs known as triads. The ultimate objectives included winning influence with Canadian politicians, stealing high-tech secrets, laundering money, gaining control of Canadian companies in real estate, media, and other sectors. The RCMP and CSIS files revealed only the tip of the iceberg, the analysts concluded. They recommended expanding the Joint Task Force to include officials from the Department of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, Immigration Canada, and Canada Customs. Okay, and I found Sidewinder. Here it is. This is Sidewinder, secret, and it was published in June 24th, 1997. So it was not destroyed. Link is in the description. And here's the summary. I'm just going to read part of it. You can read all of it if you like. It's as terrifying as you think. And well, here we go. It says, first, a certain number of very rich Hong Kong Chinese business people, tycoons who are known to have been cooperating with the Chinese government for years. Then a group of this is people who are taking advantage of Canadians' immigration systems and coming to Canada, and some even getting their Canadian citizenship, okay? And they're taking advantage of different groups, so entrepreneur and investor categories, to immigrate to Canada. So the first group is rich Chinese billionaires, tycoons, and they're associated and have been associated with the Chinese government for years. So that's a communist government. They're true believers in their system, right? So they are coming to Canada, bringing that belief and their businesses here, and then buying up businesses. Okay. Then a group composed of associates and relatives of China's leadership and the Chinese intelligence services, CHIS. Intelligence reveals that certain individuals of these groups have been working for over 15 years in concert with the Chinese government, and some of their financial ventures in Canada serve to conceal criminal or intelligence activities. Okay. They have been working for 15 years, and this was 1997. So this has been happening since at least 1985. This is a very, very rooted problem. We have a very, very serious situation here. Back to the article. The situation substantially raises the level of potential threat, revealing the effectiveness of Chinese efforts to obtain Canadian technology and their capability to interfere in the management of the country. Okay. By using these alliances, the Chinese government is trying to gain influence on Canadian politics by maximizing their presence over some of the country's economic levers. To that end, they proceed initially to buy and or legally set up a company in Canada that, once under their control, buys other companies and so on. An effective domino effect ensues that acts like a well-spun web or network at strategic points. It is estimated that over 200 Canadian companies have passed into Chinese influence or ownership since the early 1980s through the triads, tycoons, or China national companies. These businesses are found in various sections of the economy, ranging from multinationals to banking, high technology, and real estate. The triad companies are also used to pursue their criminal activities, such as money laundering and heroin trafficking, as well as assistance to the Chinese intelligence service. Being Canadian, these businesses are also eligible to receive government subsidies for research or classified contracts from federal departments. The risk is that after the research is done, the results can be transferred to China. Other form of risk is that with the access gained through classified contact. An example, a Canadian company under Chinese influence was in contention for a contract to set up and run a classified communication system linking the main agencies of the Canadian intelligence community. A company in Toronto specializing in video surveillance was originally Canadian, but was bought by a Chinese multinational. It is impossible at present to say how many of which Canadian companies are in the same situation. So do you see the danger here? You have a company that looks Canadian, but is fundamentally not Canadian, and that company is vying for Canadian intelligence contracts or surveillance contracts. This is a huge problem, massive problem. Okay, so you can read the rest of that for yourself, But we're going to look at some unrelated stories, see if you can spot Operation Sidewinder in any of these. Mike Hager is tweeting new details from civil forfeiture case of Richmond couple, Richmond, BC, who had money laundering charges recently stayed. RCMP estimate $220 million a year allegedly laundered. Did business with known triad associates who worked with importer of cocaine from Mexico. Here's the Globe and Mail link. And let's look at the Globe and Mail story. Here it is. Link is in the description. BC operation laundered massive amounts of cash, court documents say. Oh, and the money laundering case fell apart, so these people are free. They're done. They're out. Okay, so the BC couple that recently had their high-profile money laundering case dropped by the Crown was allegedly washing $220 million a year for criminals, including international cocaine trafficker associated with transnational gang associated according to new court documents. The documents were filed this week in BC Supreme Court as part of a continuing civil forfeiture case aimed at permanently confiscating more than $4 million of their cash and property. The couple had the money and personal items seized when they were charged, but when the case collapsed, they applied unsuccessfully to have them returned immediately. Instead, the Provincial Civil Forfeiture Agency, which does not need a criminal conviction or even charges to pursue a file, has stepped in. According to the documents, I don't know how to say the first name, Kazwin Quinn and Jinju Zhou allegedly laundered more than $80 million through their Richmond, BC business, Silver International, over the span of 4.5 months in 2015. Based on ledgers seized by the RCMP and raids of the alleged money laundering business, BC's Office of Civil Forfeiture alleges that the pair was able to launder close to $220 million a year. To better understand the scope of Silver International's business, Mounties selected one day of record, September 30th, 2015, and found that on that day, nearly $2.7 million was brought into the nondescript office, while $1.65 million was taken away, the Civil Forfeiture Agency said in its filing. These records also identified one of the company's customers as Nelson Wong, who the claim states is an alias of Maxime Poon Wong. Mr. Wong, according to the filing from the Civil Forfeiture Agency, is known to police as an associate of the Triads and the Yellow Triangle Boys gang, and also a business partner of Michael Whiten, a high-level importer of cocaine from Mexico to Metro Vancouver. Can you see the Sidewinder yet? Can you seeing it? Back to the article. Mr. Wong was arrested by Vancouver police in 2015 while carrying a box of bundled 20s and $50 bills worth $225,000, as well as the recipes and equipment needed to make methamphetamine, according to the court document. Customers included individuals linked to various unlawful activity, including drug production and trafficking, money laundering, homicide, assault, possession of property obtained by crime, and counterfeiting instruments and extortion, the January 3rd filing states. Silver International did not store its money according to banking industry standards, nor keep adequate records identifying customers by their full names, the statement said, and it was not registered as a money service business with FinTrack, the Federal Financial Intelligence Agency, until after the RCMP raided its offices, it said. None of the allegations detailed in the civil forfeiture claim have been proven in court, and lawyers for Ms. Quinn and Mr. Zhu, did not respond to the request for comment on Friday. The two defendants have not yet filed a response to the claim. The pair were originally charged criminally in 2017 after a massive RCMP investigation called Project E-Pirate, which was focused on organized criminals believed to be laundering large amounts of cash through British Columbia casinos. When federal Crown prosecutors stayed the criminal charges against Ms. Quinn, Mr. Zhu and their company at the end of November, it prompted BC's Attorney General to launch a review into what went wrong. Neither the RCMP nor the Crown have explained why the money laundering case fell apart, though the RCMP said in a statement afterwards it is conducting a full-scale review. Well, they're going to look into that really, really hard, I can imagine. Here's another unrelated story. Hauwei executive to be extradited to the U.S. and how it works. If you haven't heard of this story, I'll give you the too long didn't read, but we'll get to the problem with it in just a second. It says Hauwei Technologies co-lieutenant chief financial officer Meng Wanzhou, who is also the daughter of telecommunication company founder, read billionaire tycoon, was detained on Saturday while changing planes in Vancouver. A person familiar with the matter told Reuters she faces extradition on charges related to U.S. sanctions violations, and she's accused of selling secrets to Iran, right? But here's the problem. Hauwei is going to be, or in the running for, our 5G networks. They're going to be putting our 5G networks together potentially. And that's a problem because, well, if Hauwei is associated with Chinese intelligence, and a lot of people think that they are, and here's a Manila Times article talking about how Huawei's links with Chinese intelligence is a problem. And there is New Zealand, Australia, and United States who have banned Huawei from bidding on government projects and banned government people from purchasing their phones. Only the U.S. has banned government employees from purchasing the phones, but New Zealand, Australia have banned Huawei from being able to access or do anything with their 5G, and the United States has also banned them from 5G. And the United Kingdom is unwinding Huawei's 3G and 4G connections and not going with them going further. However, welcome to Canada, where in the Globe and Mail they're reporting, quote, no need to ban Huawei in light of Canada's robust cybersecurity safeguards, top officials say. And this was on September 23rd. And he says, quote, we have very advanced relationship with our telecommunication providers, something that is different from most other countries, to be honest, from what I have seen. Mr. Jones told the House of Commons Committee on Public Safety and National Security late last week. We have a program that is very deep in terms of working on increasing that broader resilience piece, especially as we are looking at the next generation of telecommunication networks. Washington has been cranking up the pressure on Canada, Britain, and New Zealand, three of its partners in the Five Eyes Security Intelligence Sharing Alliance, to join the United States and Australia in banning Huawei and fellow Chinese telecom equipment maker ZTE from participating in supplying the equipment for Canadian 5G networks. So sorry, I misspoke. Apparently, I thought New Zealand had already banned them, but perhaps they have between September 23rd and now. That could still be right. Anyway, here's a National Post article from December 10th. So Huawei has not got our 5G contract yet, as far as I can find, but at this point, it seems like they're trying to weasel out of it. I'm not entirely sure. And I'm not entirely sure how the Huawei financial CEO arrest and daughter of the owner of the company will go over with regards to them building our 5G. Do you say sorry by handing them a giant contract? I don't know. Let's see what Justin Trudeau will do. However, back to the article. Will Huawei help develop Canada's 5G network? National security comes first, Infrastructure Minister says. Quote, we understand that there are concerns and we need to properly assess whatever risk or benefits that there might be. Are there going to be benefits to having China spy on us the whole time? Really? You're going to go with benefits? Okay. Former security officials in Canada and two members of the U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence have warned that Huawei's participation could compromise the security of Canada and its closest allies. The thinking is that the Chinese company could build spying capabilities into the equipment it supplies. The opposition Conservatives regularly urged the Trudeau government and the House of Commons to leave Huawei out of Canada's 5G infrastructure, which is expected to enable much faster communication and greater data capacity. Ooh, are those the benefits? Give us all your data and you can have fast data. Ooh, great. Back to the article. Three of Canada's partners in the Five Eyes intelligence sharing group, the United States, Australia, and New Zealand, there they are, have forbidden the use of Huawei products in 5G networks development in their countries. Champagne said listening to allies is part of the review process, but he has full faith in Canada's intelligence officials to provide the best advice to the government. Quote, I think prudence is the right approach when it comes to complex national security issues like that. When it comes to networks, he said, Canada is a welcoming place for investors, but clearly our national security comes first. Wait a second. Investors means come and build the backbone of our 5G network? Is that what you're talking about? Really? Back to the article. Huawei stresses it's not a state-controlled company and denies engaging in intelligence work on behalf of any government. Champagne isn't discussing a deadline for the government review, saying the process is too important to rush. I think Canadians would expect us to do the proper due diligence, he said, whatever timeline that might imply. I think it's too serious to cut corners or to be expedient. This is about getting to the right outcome. The recent arrest of senior Huawei executive in Canada has only heightened tensions around the issue. The United States is seeking to have Ms. Wang Zhou, Huawei's chief financial officer, extradited on allegations that she tried to bypass the American trade sanctions to Iran. So, pretty interesting stuff. The developments are going to be politically a nightmare for super unpopular Justin Trudeau, right? Yeah, about as popular as Harper, only not quite as popular as Harper. And there is a rolling convoy bound for Ottawa, picking up support and asking for your support on their GoFundMe page. So check out their GoFundMe page. A link will also be in the description. I'm not going to read this because this video is already very long, but I like what these guys are doing, and I hope that they are successful in sending a message to Justin Trudeau. Have a read of Operation Sidewinder. It is as scary as you think, and when you know about it and start to look for it, it's everywhere. Everywhere. Very scary. Thanks for watching, and have a wonderful Saturday.